Greetings and happy Monday. Welcome to another edition of Facebook Live here from Agile Learning Labs World Headquarters, beautiful downtown San Mateo, California. And this time we are talking about active listening techniques. This is one of those kind of basic skills that takes a while, quite frankly, to get really good at. It's a practice. Very much like Scrum is a practice. It's something that you never perfect, but the more you do it, the more attention you give it, the better and better you get. And this is something that serves Scrum Masters very well in our role as a coach, right? Helping people feel understood and helping us actually understand the people that we're working with. It definitely is important to product owners. A big part of the product owner role is really understanding what is it that our stakeholders want, really understanding their needs. And so for that, we have to develop the ability to listen very deeply. And quite honestly, it's good for everybody on the team. The better that we are at listening and understanding each other, and the better we are at helping people feel that they are being listened to, the more effective we're going to be, right? Anytime that we're interacting with other people. So we're going to go through this in like 3 little sections. I consider it like, 101 level, and then 201, and then 301. So 101 is the basics, right? Where do we start? Well, place to start is really focusing your attention, right? When you're having a conversation with somebody, and especially when they are speaking, really try to give them your full attention. And as human beings, boy, we're so good at getting distracted by lots of things. There's so much interesting stuff that, that competes for our attention. But when, you're really focused on the person who's speaking, they feel listened to and you're more likely to catch stuff. So the next is simply voicing encouragement, right? As they're speaking, little, even like nonverbal cues like, oh, oh yeah, oh, right? Little things like that. Let them know that you are engaged, but they do that without stepping on top of the person who's speaking. You're not really interrupting them, right? Someone can keep speaking even as I go, wow. Next up, consider taking some notes. I remember when I first started making the transition from being individual contributor person to being engineering manager person, and I started doing one-on-one meetings every week with my direct reports to better understand what was going on for them and what kind of support and help did they need from me. And I found that if I took notes, it helped me. I could follow up on things better later on. And it turns out that they felt, like I was paying deeper attention. And one of the tricks to taking notes is you don't have to write down a full thought. Just a word or two that will remind you of that thought. And then, when there's a natural pause that, the other person has kind of finished their thought and they're done speaking, take a moment, look down at your notes, and then if you need to, flesh something out. Say, oh, hold on a moment. I wrote something down here that, you felt like the other department wasn't being responsive. And it gives you a jumping off point to ask for more. So you're not going to lose that. Also, when you're taking notes, listen for like hot words or trigger words, right? I heard you say upsetting 3 or 4 times in there. Wow. I can tell this is a big deal for you, right? So I might just write, upsetting. It's like, oh, okay, I'm capturing that. Paraphrasing is another powerful tool. Paraphrasing is where I say back to you what you said to me, but I say it in my own words. What's powerful about that is it's a way of confirming not only was the other person heard, but were they truly understood? Because if I can repeat back your thought, but in my own words, that gives you an opportunity to correct any misinterpretation that I've had. And then finally, summarizing. Right after somebody has shared a thought, see if you can share it back, but very concisely. And again, that helps you understand, did you really get the main points? Did you understand the core message that they were trying to share? Or sometimes, when I summarize back, someone will tell me, no, that's, you're focusing on the wrong detail. It's like, oh, okay, I thought that was the main thing. So those are the 101, paraphrasing, summarizing, voicing encouragement, taking notes, and focusing your attention. 201 level is where we kind of get a little bit more interactive. And this is where we start using questions. And there are a number of sources you can find online where you can find lists of powerful questions. And you can use questions for soliciting more information. You can use questions to get someone to start to do some self-investigation. You can use questions to kind of shift the focus. You can use questions to maybe transition somebody into action planning. And so getting good with questions. And one of the things that you hear all the time is, oh, prefer open-ended questions. And I would say yes, by and large, prefer open-ended questions, because a closed-ended question, right, one where there's a simple one-word answer, yes, no, 5, they have their place. Don't get me wrong. It's not like they're bad. But the amount of information that you get from that kind of question is limited. Now, they're useful to confirm perhaps an understanding or something like that. So they're not bad. But you just have a greater opportunity to get more information and even get surprising information that you weren't expecting with the open-ended questions. Tell me more, things like that. You could also use questions to solicit that person's opinions, right? And to get them into analysis mode. And also, don't be afraid to use questions when you really just aren't following. In my coaching work, one of the things that I found really useful and powerful is to admit when I'm just not getting it, right? And say, I'm only about part of the way there with you. Here's what I do understand, but tell me more, because I'm a little bit lost, right? And I'm kind of asking them to tell more. And then finally, and this is a trick that I have to credit Wayne Termel, who I met when he was doing the Cranky Middle Manager podcast. These days, I think Wayne is often busy doing things about remote meetings. Hi, Wayne, if you're out there. Wayne was, and I'm sure still is, super awesome. But Wayne taught me this trick. When you think they have shared everything, ask them this. What else? What more do I need to know? And either they'll tell you, well, that's it. Great, we can move on. Or, oh, they're going to surprise you, and it turns out there is more stuff. So that's one of my little, I consider it like a kind of a black belt move that somebody taught me, is every time I think we're done, I'll ask, oh, what else? What else do I need to know? And then finally, there's 301. This is getting into like the real nuanced stuff. And here, we're doing, one of my strongest tools here in the 301 level is using silence. Silence is really powerful. Silence can open up a space for the other person to realize that they've got additional information. Oftentimes, as human beings, right, we get a little uncomfortable when there's, empty space and silence. And so we want to fill it. And by creating a little bit of silence, it's an invitation for them to share things, maybe things that they're, at first we're like, oh, I'm not going to share that. But it turns out to be important information that can help us, either as a coach or a scrum master or a product owner. And so silence is really, really powerful. Body language, right? There's a big difference between and so try to use encouraging body language to show that you are engaged. And then validating concerns. And validating is not the same as agreeing. So somebody could voice a concern that, oh, they're worried that, their manager is out to get them. And maybe I know their manager, and I actually know that their manager is really trying to help them succeed. But still, I can say, oh, I could see where, you know, feeling like your manager's out to get you, that's pretty serious. I could see how that would really get you upset and get you really worried, right? I'm validating that their concern is a valid and legitimate concern. I may or may not agree that it is actually happening, but validating concerns helps people and feel like they are heard. And oftentimes before people are willing to engage in a kind of a meaningful problem-solving dialogue, they really need to feel that they were heard. And so validating concerns is really powerful. And then this next one's really tricky. Constantly being on the lookout for and then trying to verify your assumptions. Assumptions are so hard because they are things that we believe even though we may not have any direct evidence. And we have to make assumptions all the time, right? I'm working under the assumption right now that all of this Facebook Live technology is working and that you're actually hearing me. And we can't check every assumption. But, you know, as a coach especially, trying to get my assumption radar going and constantly asking myself, like, oh, what am I taking for granted here that may not be true? And then calling those things out and just taking a moment to validate them, right? For example, if I'm having this coaching conversation with somebody and they're having trouble with their manager, maybe I'm working on the assumption that they've already had some conversations with their manager about this issue. But unless I might catch myself going, wait a minute, I don't know that that's true. And so I might say, oh, I'm assuming you've talked to your manager about this, and they have the opportunity to say, oh yeah, and it didn't go well, or well, no, because I'm afraid. But by noticing that assumption that I've made, and then checking it against reality, I have the opportunity to find out if my model of what's going on is in fact in line with the facts or not, right? So there you go. 101, 201, and 301 level active listening stuff. In the description of this Facebook Live, I have a link to a blog post, goes all the way back to 2008, back to the archives, where we talked about this stuff. And really, it's fairly suitable for printing out, and format's pretty nice and all that. So have a look at that and try practicing some of these techniques. Maybe pick one technique every week, and just as a personal practice, try to really use that particular technique a lot that week, and just see what it's like to use the technique and get more practiced and more comfortable with it. In the meantime, when you're not practicing your active listening techniques, gosh, you may want to go get your CSM or your CSPO, or recommend to a friend that they go do that. So as always, Agile Learning Labs is happy to help. Check out agilelearninglabs.com and look for the list of our upcoming workshops. Our next public CSM and CSPO are the week of August 12th, and they're in Redwood City, and they're both getting pretty full. So if you're thinking about coming out to those, my encouragement is to act sooner rather than later so you can get in on that. And if you have questions, comments, thoughts, you can leave comments on this Facebook Live. You can send us an email at info@agilelearninglabs.com. You can tweet at Agile Learning. I don't know, there's probably other ways to get us too. Reach out, we'd love to hear from you. Have a great week. That's it for now.